I'm getting married tomorrow actually. So my future
Oh, wow.
father-in-law, yeah, my future father-in-law lives in Queens, and I said, hey, I love you, man, but I'm not visiting you for the next, what is it, 4 years?
Yeah, four
So
years.
yeah, that's like I'm not visiting you. I'm not visiting you for the next 4 years.
Yeah.
Oh
Neither am I.
man.
I'm going to a UFC fight on the 15th of November, and that's probably the last time I'm going to New York.
Oh man.
Probably 4 years.
Sucks. Anyways, yeah, people's watching. Okay, we got the comment section, $7,000 club. Awesome, we're already there. Yep. All right.
Come on with it, man. Come on
Yeah.
with it. These people are so silly with the $7,000 thing. I ain't gonna lie. I wish that I could get $7,000 for all this stuff on post. Dude, I'd be a millionaire by this point. They ain't give me nothing. So,
Yeah.
these people are silly, man.
Yeah, I just tell them I'm on a higher tier. I get paid $10,000 a post. But yeah, it's really funny. Everyone gets $7,000 if they even just say the word Israel, and it's like, you guys do the math here. It doesn't really add up if they're paying everyone $7,000 a post, and you have tens to hundreds of thousands of posts per day across the board. Man, that's a lot of money.
They'd be at a billion by now if you take everybody on the internet that they claim getting paid. And I've made so many posts, I'd be over a million right now by myself.
Oh man,
So
easily.
it's irrational. These people are ignorant. They don't have an argument. They just claim you're getting paid. And I just laugh at these people and continue to push the truth and plant seeds that are reasonable.
Yeah, that's what I say. I say, hey, does me getting paid, whether it be $7,000 or $7 million a post, does that make my argument any weaker? And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, can you refute the argument? The argument doesn't change regardless if I'm getting paid to make it or not.
Right.
That usually gets them. Anyways, Brandon, one of the things I respect about you the most, I've been watching a long time. I was at Turning Point in Florida. Got to see you speak there. I've been watching you far before that. And I like how you call out hypocrisy wherever it lives, left or right, and you're very much big in your values. And so today I just kind of want to explore what's been on your mind, the American-Israeli alliance, why it's important, and things that you do disagree with. What would you like to see to get better, and just overall why it matters. And I won't say the anti-Semitism on the right is anywhere near the left. I think for the left, it's been the better part of a decade, if not longer. But I'll say the potential that is growing. I want to talk about that a little bit. But I guess to start off is, do you think how you think about Israel and calling out hypocrisy regardless of where it exists and sticking with your values, does that come from your background as an officer, or is it just something that you've always kind of grown up with?
That's a great question, man. I think I've always been a stubborn person, and I've always been a person who loved math. And so I like figuring things out and putting things together. And at the end of my pursuit of anything, I have to find the answer to it. And the answer is outside of emotionalism. Just like math, you can be emotional all you want. That's not going to get 2 plus 2 to be 4. You have to be more pragmatic and have a practical response to things. And growing up, I've been like that my whole life. Becoming a police officer exacerbated that, because I have been in situations where I hear one side of the story and I have been convinced. I see a woman with knots on her head and I'm like, the guy beat her up. And when I find him, I'm arresting him. Then we find out that she actually beat him up and he was defending himself, and then she went to jail. So it's like I learned, and I'll never forget that case, because that was one of the cases where I made up my mind. I said, Brandon, you can never just listen to one side and make a conclusion. You can never do it again, bro. This was such a crazy scenario. I had another scenario like this where we essentially arrested the wrong person. And it was the craziest scenario ever. And the reason why we would never get in trouble, because it's in good faith. This guy, literally, it was a car that fled from us. It darked out. It parked in a complex. Everybody jumps out of the car. We get there, all the doors are open. And these guys are dumb enough to not to run away. They kind of linger around the car and sit on the thing. So we detained everybody. And then the driver was gone. He had escaped, had an ID in the car, had drugs and guns in the car in the driver's side compartment. The ID, everybody in the car said, hey, it's this guy on the ID. We called the registered owner of the vehicle. The woman answered, she's the registered owner. She go, yeah, I let this person drive the car, which was the same guy on the ID. So now everybody in the car says it's the guy on the ID. The registered owner of the car said it was the guy on the ID that I let use the car. We go to his house, we find him, we arrest him, we take him to the substation. We're writing out the fill in the interim. He's telling us, it wasn't me, man. It wasn't me. I went to prison with this guy. I got out before him. I slept with his girlfriend. He hate me and he has revenge against me. It wasn't me. He stole my ID. And his mama, it's her car. And so she's covering for him, bro. It wasn't me. Now, you know how crazy that sounds? Everybody identified him in the car. The woman that owned the car said she let him borrow the car. He's telling us that a guy he went to prison with stole his ID. And we're like, that's probably not true. So we got enough probable cause to arrest you. Let me tell you what saved his life. We take a phone into evidence. It's sitting on the evidence table. We're writing out the fill in the interim. The phone buzzes and the messages pop up. And it's messages on Facebook. And it's from the guy's Facebook that he claimed set him up. And the guy says, and the message pops up and the guy says, I just fled from the police. They have my phone. They don't know that it's me. They have my phone and I can't communicate with you only through Facebook. And we ended up putting it together that it was the guy did steal his ID and all of this stuff. And we let him walk out the front door. But wow. I'm saying all that to say, I learned to never take things that you see at face value without considering the other side and doing due diligence. And that's kind of what this whole relationship with Jews and the Jewish people in America, I mean, all of the arguments that I've come to the conclusion with I've come to the conclusion with deep thought and consideration from both sides.
Yeah, no, you're right. So what I've been studying significantly, I mean, like you said, is just for the past 5 years, really, just on a daily level. I'm not Jewish, I'm not Israeli, but like this relationship between Israel and America, I don't agree with everything, and that's fine. You're not supposed to, I don't think. If you agree with everything, that's, I don't know, that's weird, almost culty-like. And so I agree. There's times where I look at something at face value, I read a headline, and I'm like, man, what the heck? And then you look a little deeper. Sometimes it takes time, too. Sometimes you got to wait for information. Sometimes the best thing you can do is also just wait. And you're right, and things will just, it'll shift completely. So with Israel-America alliance, do you see, with America, right, and the relationship it has with Israel, for me, and I'd like to know if you agree with it, the reason I am America first, I'm a veteran, served for about 12 years. I love this country. It's the greatest country in the world, the United States of America. And I see the relationship with Israel to be that important. Now, the things that we don't agree with, if it's on a consensus level, we should work together and say this is what we don't like. But the relationship with Israel is good for America. Do you agree with that? And if not, is there something you would change?
Yeah, I agree with 100%, man. I mean, the thing is that we're not going to agree with every government. We don't even agree with our own government. You know, we talk about corruption. Our government is probably the most corrupt government. And, you know, we forced to live here. And I'm not saying that I don't enjoy living here. I don't love my country. I love America. And if we corrupt, we just corrupt. You know, I'm not saying who cares, but I'm picking America over anybody any day of the week. You could say it's kind of like having that family member that's cutting up and you're like, I can talk about my family, but you can't talk about my family. You know, like America got its flaws. We all know it has its flaws. The reason that Donald Trump is in office right now because America has a ton of things wrong with it, but it also has a lot of great things to offer. And it's the greatest country on planet Earth when you look at the totality of what America represents. So with that being said, when we have an ally like Israel, they're not perfect. You're a lying nut job to think that Israel government system is completely perfect and they never do anything wrong. And the IDF is blameless. That's stupid. And the expectation for them to be blameless is crazy. And strategically in the region with certain resources that we get from Israel, the intelligence that we get from Israel, the proximity to Western civilization in the Middle East, and the proximity to military power in the Middle East on behalf of America is strategically important to us. And the crazy thing is that people often want to talk about we give them aid. Listen, and I know the naysayers are not going to want to hear this because they're disingenuous. We either support Israel in standing up for Western values in the Middle East, or we're going to end up in the Middle East. It's one of the two. Either we support Israel and partner with them to hold back the Islamic terrorist threat that's headed towards the West, or we're going to end up being over there using way more money than $3.8 billion a year.
That's exactly right.
And it's crazy to me that people don't understand that. And one reason they don't understand is some is for ignorance. Some, they're neutral and they just believe in people they like, which is also ignorant. And others, they just hate Jews. And so no matter what the Jewish people do, no matter what Israel do, they just hate whatever comes up. But we have a strategic relationship. And the relationship is not just, in my opinion, it's not just militarily strategic. It's not because of the intelligence that we get. It's not because of the incredible technology that's coming from Israel that comes to America that's life-saving. It's not just that. We are a Christian nation. And the Holy Land is where our faith came from. It's like the foundation of America came from Israel. I don't know why people don't understand that. The fact that we believe in Jesus Christ today was because of Jews, Jesus and his apostles and other Jews who pushed the gospel of Jesus Christ in Israel first. That's the reason why America exists. That is the book that we read.
That's right.
That is the gospel of Jesus Christ. All of the prophets, from all the way from Jacob, all the way through the bloodline, all the way down through Jesus Christ of Nazareth. That's why we also have a unique relationship with Israel. That's why Christians love going to Israel and love seeing where Jesus lived and where Jesus walked and where he preached and where he taught and where he prayed and in the Garden of Gethsemane and some of the sermons he did and the miracles he did and all of those things that he did all over Judea and Samaria and also in Jerusalem. This is why we love Israel as well. Do we want the radical Islamic terrorists to take over Israel? Now you tell me how Christians would be treated in Israel if the Islamic terrorists took over Israel, or the people from the West Bank, the Palestinians or Gazans. I can just give you one statistical data point. Bethlehem, where Jesus was born, was 80+% Christian.
That's right. Yeah.
And then when the Palestinians took over, now we fast forward today, it's now 13 to 17% Christian. What happened?
Max.
Christians are not welcome in the very birthplace of Jesus Christ. There's only 50,000 Christians reportedly in the West Bank. There's only 1,000 or so in Gaza. Why? Majority of the Christians live in Israel. It's about 180,000 Christians that live in Israel. Christians can proselytize in Israel, which means they can witness, they can convert people in Israel. With, there's some restrictions like children and people without their consent and stuff like that. They can't use money to bribe them. But in a very naturalized way, they can build churches. Christians can serve in the Knesset. Christians can have rights all over Israel. Something that you cannot do in the West Bank and Gaza. I literally have Jesus is Lord in Hebrew tattooed on my forearm that I got in Jerusalem. So with people, acting as if our relationship with Israel is just all rooted in nefarious purposes, I just don't understand where they're coming from with that, unless they're evil or they're completely ignorant to the reality.
Trolls, people who have never been there. I've been there multiple times. I make sure I go to Jerusalem a lot. Not only with Bethlehem, what you said, you're absolutely correct. 80, some sources say 90+% prior to Jordan actually annexing the West Bank. And what people don't realize is when Jordan illegally annexed, including Bethlehem, you're right, it went from 80 to 90% and then Muslim majority in just less than 2 decades. Less than 2 decades, it went down to about 40%, give or take, Christian. The Jews take back over Bethlehem up until the Oslo Accords. And in that small period, from the 6-Day War to 93 of the Oslo Accords, Christians became a majority again. And then the Palestinians take over, like you said, and then now it's 13 to 17%. I've read some that say 10 to 15%. But yeah, it's insane, and people think it's a coincidence, and they want to blame it on Israel. And it's like every time Israel has controlled that piece of land, specifically Bethlehem, Christian population goes up. Muslims control it, Christian population goes down. And we see this throughout all the Middle East. Israel is the only place where the Christians are thriving and increasing. And I wholeheartedly agree with you. The what you talk about with the $3.8 billion a year, I think you raise a really good point, because people don't understand that, first off, about $500 million of that is direct funding, all to missile defense. The other $3.3 billion is a credit system that is sent back into the American economy. Let me fix this real quick. My question for you is like, can you expand on the importance of the intelligence that we receive from Israel and what that means in terms of value and how you see that as an American versus if we didn't give it to Israel, how much money would we have to spend without their help?
Right. I mean, it's unimaginable at what lengths we would have to go to get intelligence from the region. We would have to put some of our sources, human sources, which are people, we would have to put their lives in danger because they would have to somehow get to the region, incorporate themselves in populations where they are not true to themselves, meaning that they have to be spies or some other way for us to get intelligence. They have to embed in the community. I don't know how we would do it without Israel, to be quite honest, to get any intel in the region. But if we did, it would be heavily expensive. I mean, Ted Cruz spoke about this at the event that he just spoke at. Like, and these people are in our government. These people are in the House of Representatives. People are in Congress. People are, serving in the Senate. And they understand how much money we appropriate and how much money we would have to spend if we did have spies. Now, we probably have spies in other places, but to have them in Israel, and we did not coordinate with the Israeli government, therefore we would have to have spies or something in Israel, which would be secretively. Then we would have to have them in other places in the region secretively. If we didn't have cooperation with Israel, we probably wouldn't have a good relationship with Jordan or Egypt. And so it'll be a catastrophe to try to do this. And this is why we partner with them. How do we know that Iran has nuclear weapons that they're building? We don't have access the way that Israelis have access and the IDF have access and Mossad have access to tour the facility, to put spies and bug people in Iran. We don't have enough intelligence to somehow get ourselves into Qatar in a way that's conspicuous, so, or less conspicuous. I think that's the better term.
Right. Yeah.
So I think it'll be very costly for us to do that. And it's not effective and efficient for us to even attempt that when we have a country that is supportive of America. Let me say this, like the people on the internet are living in the matrix. The president just went to Israel. He was in the Knesset, gave a speech in the Knesset. Like, they love Trump. Trump respects Benjamin Netanyahu, at least enough to have diplomacy. When Donald Trump flew into Israel, they building welcome Trump or something in the sand on the beach. They're flying Trump. They wearing Trump hats. I mean, the people of Israel love and appreciate and respect Donald Trump. And I would argue that they probably do more than people in America do.
Absolutely.
Half of us love Trump. I bet more than half of them love Trump in Israel. When I went to Israel, we went to the Golan Heights. When you're going up the mountain to the Golan Heights, they have a sign that says Trump Heights.
Yeah, that's right. It's one of the kibbutzim, yeah.
They love Donald Trump in Israel. Why in America we somehow think that they're our enemy? That's the craziest thing ever. He get probably some of the best receptions when he come to Israel. And Netanyahu comes to our Congress and speaks, and he's welcomed at the White House. Donald Trump obviously has enough respect for him. He invites him to the White House and all of the above. And it's interesting to me that people are not seeing this stuff. They're not seeing the partnership and relationship between America. They don't want to see it. They conflate Israel with AIPAC. When all AIPAC is, like, here's the thing. You are a complete ignorant fool if you think AIPAC should register for FARA or register as FARA. You are a fool. It's American citizens. And Americans, last time I checked, can lobby for whatever they want to lobby for. If you don't like what they're lobbying for, then just don't take lobby money from them. But you can't say they're supposed to register as FARA. That's reserved for foreign countries, either directing a lobby group or they're spending money in a lobby group. There's no evidence that they're using money, Israeli money, in the lobby group in America. It's just so happen to be people who love the Jewish relationship between America and Israel, or the Israeli relationship. They love Jewish people. They're Zionists and they're Jews, and they got money, and they use their money for the things that they want to accomplish.
That's right.
Like, what are we saying? And then even if, this is the thing that kills me, bro. Even if they did register for FARA, they are still not top 5 lobby groups from foreign countries. They still wouldn't even be top 5. Probably not even top 10, to be quite honest.
Barely, maybe they would be 10. I've done the math before. People don't realize okay, yes, there was a super PAC that they did during the last midterm elections and the last presidential election. Even then, very little money. The amount of lobbying, because they've been tracking it since 1998 annually, the amount of lobbying they've done since 1998, minus again the super PAC to be fair, $65 million in almost 30 years. Qatar, on average, every single year spends into our university system, our youngest adults, our kids, effectively, $235 million on average a year. That's before we even get into lobbying, our government, any of that, which, by the way, I think they're number 5, give or take, in lobbying as a foreign. And nobody cares about that. So I think you're right. I think you touched on it when you say that there's just some people that just really hate Jews and they want to pretend.
And I don't know if it's spiritual or not, man. I don't know why people hate Jews. It's not that serious. Like, I don't hate any group of people, really, unless you're doing something nefarious. And the problem with the Jewish hate is that they project that Jews are doing something nefarious just because they're Jews. I promise you, like, you could be looking at something in a person like, oh, the person that run that is a Jew. Well, yeah, that doesn't mean that every Jew is like that. If that's a bad person, it's a bad person that happened to be a Jew. But they say the person is bad because they're a Jew. And then that Jew must be like every other Jew. It's like, no, dude, there's some Jews that are atheists. They have no association with Judaism whatsoever. They just happen to be genetically connected to the ethnicity of Jew. It's their race.
That's right.
And they're not associated with other Jews. They're not associated with religious Jews. Like, even now, you got Republican Jews, conservative, and you have leftist Jews. Every Jew ain't the same. You have those who are crooked and are evil. That's just right. The same thing where you got the white people that are crooked and evil and black people that are crooked and evil and the Nigerians that are crooked. Everybody got crooked folk in their ethnicity. But for some reason, bruh, they just exacerbated with the Jews. Like, for instance, like, somebody did a deep dive into me, into my background or whatever, and they claim that I'm getting paid by AIPAC or something stupid. The guy that cut my hair is Jewish. Now, I never knew the guy was Jewish. I didn't know until he told me. He looked Arabic, but I didn't think he was Jewish. It's not like I really know what Jewish people look like they all look the same. And I'm like, yeah, he's a Jew. And so, and it was an accident how he cut my hair, because the last 3 years I had a black guy cut my hair and he lived like 35 minutes and I just couldn't make the drive. And then he was coming to me and he didn't make the drive. He couldn't do it all the time when I needed him. And so I just went right up the street next to a cigar lounge. I saw a barbershop and I go in and I say, I hope to God they know how to cut hair in here. And I picked the guy at the first one that was sitting down and he started cutting my hair. He did a good job. And so I've been going to him ever since. Come to find out he's a Jew. Now, somebody somewhere that's just asking questions are going to say something about the guy being a Jew. I did a business deal with the company just recently, and they're going to put a media release out. I'm an investor and advisor in this new company called Freedom Chat. And so it's the replacement of WhatsApp and all that. So they're actually a secure system. Me and this guy, his name is Tanner, we meet, we talk, we do business. And he told me that, like, I think, like, somebody in his family is a Jew, right? So somebody somewhere is going to say, see, he worked with a Jew person working. That's how ridiculous it is, dude. It's ridiculous. Like, there's a company that sponsored my show, and I'm not going to say the brand name, but they wrote me a message or whatever, and they were telling me how thankful they are that I'm standing up for the Jewish people or whatever the case may be. And the crazy thing is that somebody somewhere, if they knew it, they'd be like, see, he got Jewish people sponsoring the show. And little do they know, the 2 events I've done that have been Jewish, I got paid $0 for doing them. And I get paid a lot of money to speak and a lot of money to travel and do things like this. I'm talking about a lot of money. And the 2 Jewish events that I did, one was for the international, I think the International Fellowship of Christian and Jews.
Yeah, right.
Which we got to email them because, I'm kind of disappointed in how they treated me. But went there, did that free. The RJC, the Republican Jewish Coalition that I just spoke at, free. Like, what are we even saying here? These people swear to God I'm getting paid, and I'm doing events. The 2 Jewish events that I've done have been for free, and I charge people a lot of money to do events. So it's asinine to me that people are thinking that somehow, like, you and I are taking positions for money. Like, let's be honest. If somebody want to pay me for an opinion I already have, with content I'm already doing that I've been doing for 7 years, 8 years now, please, thank you for your support. Pay me.
Yeah, I'm already gonna say it. Yeah, I want to know.
I'm already saying it for free. If you want to put money in my pocket for the pain and suffering that I'm going through standing up for what's right, come on and pay me. I've been supporting Trump for I don't know how many years. I ain't never received a dime from Donald Trump. Matter of fact, I've been invited to the White House a few times, and of course, I had to cover my own flight and hotel stay. They didn't even help me with a flight to come down there. But I don't need that because I stand on what I believe, and I don't need money to do stuff that I believe. But if they want to pay me, if it's some rich Jewish person say, Brandon, I love the way you think, like Kanye did with Candace way back then. I love the way this Officer Tatum think. I want to invest millions of dollars in this company. Come on, where do I sign this line at? But there's no amount of money that's going to make me disagree with the things I actually believe. You can pay me enough money for me to say, I'm not supporting Jews no more. Because that's not what I believe in my heart. And if I lose my platform, which I don't think I will because there's enough people with common sense, but if I do, so be it. I can't look God in the face and say that I'm going to do it for my own personal gain, or I'm going to turn on what I know to be true biblically because I'm afraid of backlash. I'll never do it.
I just also think that the whole point, and I think people grow naturally just by being authentically themselves, even if that means coming with hate now. I think in the long term that always grows. Well, do you want to talk about, you said that you don't like how the International Fellowship of Christians or Jews, whatever their name is treating you. You want to talk about that, or you want to put a pin in that for now?
Yeah, no, I don't think, let me make sure I preface that. I don't think it's the way they're treating me. I went to an event and I just felt like the way they handled the event was a little, it was a little sketchy, right? I ended up getting into stuff that I didn't plan on getting into, right? Just for sake of argument. I was asked to go to an event that was held at my favorite church in America, right? It's one of my favorite churches. Right. And obviously it's not the church that held the event. It was them that held the event, and the church allowed them to hold the event. So I went to the event, and they initially told me like, hey, come here. There's a gentleman that worked in the IDF. We would like for you to interview him. And I said, all right, that's fine. No, but they're not paying me, but I'm already flying somewhere anyway. I love the church that they were at. I said, man, I'm going to go do a church service and interview a person, and I'm out of there. Well, not only did I interview that person, I ended up doing like 2 other interviews, and I ended up doing another interview that really wasn't previously explained to me. And so it ended up turning into like an advertisement where now people are telling me, Brandon, I see your face all over the TV and stuff like that. And I did sign a little document that everybody, you sign when you go on TV and you go, hey, we would like to use your likeness or whatever for us to broadcast this or whatever. And I signed a little document. But then when I go back and look at it, I'm like, I don't like the fact that this wasn't thoroughly explained to me before I got myself into this. That's the only thing that bothered me about it. And we emailed them, and I would like for them to explain to me thoroughly, how did we end up going through all this when I thought I was going there to do one thing. And then, of course, I didn't get no compensation for it. So it was a little frustrating that happened to me. But,
sounds frustrating.
Maybe it wasn't in poor faith. Maybe it was a miscommunication. But I have never experienced nothing like that where I felt like I'm at an event and I won't say it was trickery, man. It's just that I came here to do this thing here. And then all of a sudden while I'm there, it's like, oh, do this. Hey, do this. Hey, can you do this? Hey, can you go do this interview right here? And I'm like, oh, fine. Whatever y'all need, man. I'll support the cause. And then it's like, hey, can you sign this real quick so we can, use your video, whatever. And I sign the thing. And then I'm like, this look like an ad. I got to read an ad. I'm not prepared to read an ad. I don't have a telephone. What am I supposed to say? I'm not even prepared to do this. I'm coming to do interviews and then attend church and do all that. I didn't come prepared to do a advertisement. And so then people are telling me they see it on TV. And I'm like, well, that wasn't explained to me that it was gonna go that way. So I just was a little upset about that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no.
And I expect them to call me and make it right. And then if they do, then of course I don't have any problem. If they don't, then I would never work with them again.
I know that sounds super sketchy. I ain't gonna lie to you.
I mean,
I don't really know the group that much.
When you go do something, you're very clear about it, and you respect people's time, and you respect people's honorarium or whatever the case may be. I would never in my life try to get somebody to do something for free if the value is not like
That's
that.
right.
Like because I have other people other corporations or people I partner with. I think they'll never do that. If they are going to have the intent to use content for some reason, they will thoroughly explain. And if there's money to be made, there's a conversation that needs to be had. Like, is there money that's to be made off this? Where is this going? How long are you going to use, my person, my identity? Like, we need to have a conversation about this, because are you going to use it in perpetuity? Is every time you do, you could just use my face and put it out everywhere without even having a conversation with me? Right. I'm hoping that that's not really the case in this situation, but those things I don't like.
Well, yeah,
very clear. Let's communicate very clearly what the expectation is, and then I don't mind going out of my way, flying somewhere, and going here, and I can make a determination that, of course, I'm not going to get an honorarium to do any of this, but I'm making the exception to do it. Just like the RFJC. I mean, it was no honorarium compensation, but I love the cause. I don't need the money because I make plenty of money, and I wanted to go and speak and support. And I don't need money to do that because that's already what I feel. I stopped by, I did it, then I went to a UFC fight, and I was doing my thing in Vegas, having a good time with some friends. And so that's fine. I knew what it was. We had a good communication about it. I didn't need a charge of honorarium to do that, and it was cut and dry.
And that's exactly what I'm saying about you. You're very, very big on these are my values, and everything you're saying makes perfect sense. Time and identity is the thing that is ours, and if it comes at the value of I love the cause and I want to help it, that is the value. If it comes at the value of an honorarium, money, whatever, then that is the value. So I agree with you. Millie, are you here? Can you hear us? Sorry, there is somebody who'd like to ask you a question. She runs one of the biggest MAGA lives on TikTok. She's absolutely a friend, and I promised her she would get to ask you a question, and she's here. So, Millie, go ahead, ask your question.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I'm so sorry. It didn't light up the box. So I guess I know that Nick's probably asked you a lot of the questions surrounding Israel, but I think that from the MAGA side of the aisle, my biggest concern is the extremism that is growing on both sides of the party. We've seen now multiple conservative content creators kind of lift up Nick Fuentes for some reason. And so we saw with Brett Cooper, she was kind of defending the interview that happened with Tucker Carlson. Tucker Carlson interviewed Nick Fuentes without asking him and pushing back on some of his beliefs about Schmittler saying, women want to be raped, stuff of that nature. And then Candace Owens did an interview with him as well. Even the Hodgkin twins are somewhat defending him. So I guess from MAGA, me personally, I'm concerned that the alt-right Groyper movement is making an attempt to take over the conservative party. And if they successfully do, I don't see myself being attached to the Republican Party with that type of movement being lifted up. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I don't necessarily think these idiots, which I call them idiots, they're clear idiots, that it will make me leave the Republican Party. It's going to make me fight to keep these people from representing the Republican Party. More of us need to stand up. Supporting Nick Fuentes is insane. And these people are conflating free speech with calling people out on the carpet. And then the same people that were getting mad at us for calling Tucker Carlson out, he came back and apologized. So you tell me who's wrong? He should have never said that. We called him out. Now he apologized and said he didn't mean it and he shouldn't have said it. So to be honest, the people that criticized Tucker Carlson weren't wrong because he knew he was wrong for saying it. And then the whole thing about Nick Fuentes, like Hodge twins and all those guys, these people, and I like the Hodge twins. I talk to them. I send business to them when I can. But I think some people lack depth and wisdom. Like there, some people they only can communicate and do commentary at a surface level. If it goes any deeper, it just gets ridiculous. It gets mindless. It gets into let me see where the wind is going. None of it is deep enough. There's nobody that have any common sense that believe in God. And I don't know if Hodge twins claim to be Christians or not, but anybody that have common sense that believe in God will think that a person that's on his podcast saying that women should deserve to get, you know what, that he supported Joseph Stalin, who was an atheist, who hated Christians, who hated religion. He destroyed churches. All of the same thing they claim Jews are doing. Joseph Stalin did it at a high level, murdering innocent people. You name it, he did it. Hitler did the same thing. And these people are compassionate and Hitler and Stalin adjacent. And people are accepting them and saying, this is the new party. This is the new movement. I tell you what, I'll say this, and this is what teed me off. I really respected Charlie. Charlie was really considered my friend. When Charlie called me, he needs something from B. Tatum, it's done. When Charlie died, as a man, my goal was to protect his legacy and his wife, because he's not here to protect his wife. And if a guy ever came out talking about Charlie's wife, you ain't coming on my show at all. But if somehow you end up in front of me, I'm going to check you on what you did. You're not going to disrespect my friend's wife and think I'm not going to check you over it. You're not going to disrespect my friend that somebody I believe was a friend, and you talking about he wasn't a Christian and he was despicable and he's a liar, and you literally went after Charlie Kirk for ever since 2017 when I was with Turning Point, and you're going to come on my podcast and I'm not going to check you over that. You're like, this stuff is crazy to me. And so to see people bringing him on, I'll tell you why they're doing it. Clouds.
Yeah.
100%.
You think I ain't thought about it? If I brought Nick Fuentes in here and me and him had a debate, I'll get millions and millions of views.
Oh, it'd be insane.
But I don't mess with people like that. I don't need views, bruh. It's principle. Nick Fuentes
Integrity.
cannot be in the same room with me without me checking him over the stuff that he said about Erica, about Charlie. You know, he called Candace a B the other day. Just flat out call her a B.
Yeah.
Worse.
And worse than that.
Yeah.
I mean, he disrespected Candace. And like, although I don't agree with a lot of things that Candace has been saying lately, at the end of the day, you're not finna disrespect a person that I know that's considered a friend. You're not gonna disrespect somebody. You can disagree with her ideas. But when you call her a B and threaten and do all this other stuff, you're not coming on my podcast.
Yeah.
And you definitely ain't gonna come on without me confronting you. You say, I support Joseph Stalin. Bruh, you what? You gotta explain that like he did to Tucker. No. How dare you say you're a Christian and you support Joseph Stalin? Explain yourself. That wussy.
That's the thing.
Tucker is a wussy, man. He a wussy. Dave Smith is a wussy. All these people are wussies, man. And I don't really go after the women like that. But the men, I will call you a wussy to your face, because these people are I have no respect for men that won't stand up on principle. I just don't have no respect for them.
I have no problem going after Candace Owens for the things that she does. She claims to be a friend of Charlie, but moments after he unalived, she stands on his grave, completely slanders to infinity an organization that he literally unalived for, built from the ground up. Her followers are now attacking his widow, saying that she's having an affair with J.D. Vance, saying that she's now involved in child trafficking. I just can't imagine why Candace hasn't stopped as an influencer to stop and correct her following, saying, stop attacking Erica. This is not the message. If she is truly trying to find out, quote unquote, who unalived Charlie, if she truly wants to investigate that, why can't it be, hey, not at the expense of attacking his widow, not at of trying to cripple TPUSA?
Yeah, let me. I'll give a slight opinion on it. This is my thoughts on it. If I had 5 million people follow me on YouTube, and I had 140,000, 150,000, 200,000 people watching me live every single day I go live to cover topics, I would use my time, effort, and energy lifting up the legacy of Charlie Kirk. I would be promoting revival. I would be incorporating prayer and all of the Christ-like things that represented Charlie Kirk. I would communicate directly with Turning Point USA staff, and I would join them in helping Turning Point become what I want Turning Point to be. You know what I'm saying? What I think Turning Point should be in Charlie's honor. So if there's gaps in Turning Point, let me make sure that the gaps are fixed. In the investigation into Charlie Kirk's death, before I open my mouth about anything, I would verify what I'm saying first, because I do not want to put things out there that could be harmful to people that were not involved, or harmful to people that didn't have anything to do with it, that may have looked suspicious to the outside world. But I would verify before I put their faces, their names, and anything out there. This is just how I would do it.
It's tough.
Because I feel like Charlie Kirk's legacy is being marred at this point. This all could have went one of two ways. And there's a lot of prominent people that have been contributors of it going south instead of going north. I wanted to see all of us unite when Charlie died. I thought that it's going to be a one big united party against evil. And the problem is the evil isn't even being spoken of. We went on tangents, all of us together, about the transgender, mentally ill transgender people that were shooting up schools and doing all this old crazy stuff. We went to no end talking about the issues and the complications associated with that. Charlie Kirk said it to no end. Then a person takes his life that have that same ideology we've been talking about. And so we should be spending more time addressing that ideology.
That's right.
Yes.
But yet we're fighting, we're arguing, people are pointing the finger, and the person that actually is responsible for taking Charlie's life, it hadn't even been mentioned but 3 or 4 times in this whole argument.
That's
the
right.
Yes.
guy killed Charlie. They got so much unwavering
The discovery.
evidence.
The discovery is massive, is what the prosecutor said.
That's insane.
The discovery was so massive. The prosecutor said it was. The defense said, we need more time, because all of the electronic communication that we have to go through and all of the evidence, we need more time to be able to build a defense on all of the evidence that's there. It wasn't because there was no evidence. It's because there's so much evidence. And I know things. And I tell people all the time when I cover all these police shootings, if you don't think a person like me know what's going on and a person like me don't have birdies, you crazy. I know all these police shootings. A lot of times I get information. I cannot disclose how I get information and who I get it from, but I have information. That's why I tend to be right about every single, I have been 100% right about every police shooting I mentioned, because I don't say nothing unless I know what's going on. And the second part is I have concrete, verifiable evidence before I ever come out and say it. And sometimes I have evidence that I will never disclose publicly because I don't want to burn my source and I don't want to compromise an investigation. So I keep my mouth shut until the investigation goes through, and then now I can talk about it. But I already knew what it was. And I'm telling you that they have this case in Charlie's death, all the conspiracies are completely pointless. It's
But
just
it's
people
sowing
making money.
doubt. I think it's personally starting to sow reasonable doubt. And I think backhandedly, they're going to cause so much reasonable doubt that might give the defense an out.
Well, it also could
I'll
taint
say-
a jury
I'll say-
pool as well.
It will taint a jury pool. All you need is one juror to
Yeah.
be a holdout,
That's
and therefore
right.
the case will be completely, it'll be a hung jury. But here's the thing: there's so much evidence. There's no amount of jurors that can turn it back on this, because once the judge give jury instructions, they have a very clear path on what they need to convict on and why. And there's so much evidence. I'm telling you, there's evidence. I'm telling you right now that it shouldn't be missed on people that they have a firearm and they have a bullet that was recovered. Just know that is significant. That is significant. I'll leave it at that. But what it comes down to is the death penalty. I believe that's what this comes. It's not coming down to whether or not he did it or not. It comes down to whether or not his family is willing to fight so he don't have to get the death penalty. Because you haven't seen a press conference at all of the defense saying anything about him. Normally they try to get the public to be on his side, and they go, our client We will fight to the end. Our client is not. They're not saying none of that. Because when you have your mother and father identifying you from a surveillance footage and electronic communication with them, convincing you to turn yourself in, and you confessing to them you did it,
Yeah.
and you're getting a deputy involved, whom he's a witness that you confessed that you did it, because then he coordinated with the sheriff for you to turn yourself in without the SWAT team. So, like, the communication between Tyler Robinson, his mama, daddy, a deputy, and the sheriff is pretty damning communication. Like, there's no
Yeah.
like when a deputy sheriff gets up on the stand and they go, well, what was told to you? Well, it was told to me by this and this and this that he did it and he wanted to turn himself in. What else did he tell you? Well, he told me that he didn't want violence and he didn't want the SWAT team to come, so he asked me to, arrange it to where he can peacefully turn himself in. So a person that didn't do it is telling you that he want to peacefully turn himself in. And his mama and daddy testified that it was him that they identified, not the FBI. They didn't identify him at first. They just had the image. His mama identified him and his dad.
They found a palm print too, right?
They got a palm print. They got DNA. Yeah. They got a shoe impression. They got DNA from the trigger. They got his DNA on the bullets. They got a spent casing in the gun. They got DNA on the gun. The gun belonged to his grandfather. They got video of him running with the gun, him stashing the gun. I mean,
can you tell us?
Nobody would be talking about this if it had not been for people online spreading conspiracies.
Can you tell us, as an officer, the palm print? What is it? Is it just like the size and the hand like matching Tyler Robinson? Is it as simple as that, or is it a little deeper?
No, everybody's palm have a unique pattern,
print,
just like a fingerprint. So everybody's palm have you see these striations and lines. Everybody's palm have a unique pattern.
Wear and tear.
So what they can do is get impressions from portions of the pattern. Like, just say it was his right hand. So they'll take portions of the pattern and then they'll match them in a forensic lab to match if the palm actually matches his palm.
Man, it's insane.
It won't be a mistake because only his palm looks a certain way. They have the same lines and all this other stuff. And that's what a palm impression is. Then they got a shoe impression, which means that his Converse shoe hit the ground, and they were able to they probably put a wax mold over it and they extracted it. And they're going to compare it to the bottom of his actual shoe, because everybody's shoe, if you're wearing your shoes, sometimes they have unique indentions. They have unique damage to it. They have unique scuffs, and they're going to mold that and they're going to put that against his shoe. And therefore that same Converse shoe at the same size matches the shoe that they recovered that he's seen wearing in videos, that he's seen wearing in still shots and photos and other photos that he's wearing the same shoe in. So it's pretty cut and dry, man. And they got so much more evidence than they've disclosed to us. I know that for a fact. Anybody that's ever done an investigation know that for a fact. But people that should know it refuse to display it because you don't make money in not having a conspiracy. What I would do if I had a major platform that was even bigger than mine is that I would interview a psychologist to explain why some of the people at Turning Point USA reacted the way they did after watching Charlie die in front of them. I would interview a former FBI agent that you trust. You don't have to be a current one. It could be somebody that was previous FBI, so they can explain the investigatory process. I would have somebody who understands forensic evidence and understand firearms expert. Right. If you are trying to get to the bottom of what happened, you're going to try to you would try to parallel a true investigation. But there's no way anybody on the internet right now, unless you have access to interview witnesses, that you can claim that you are even close to getting to the bottom of this. Geo-tracking. This is going to come up in court. Trust me. When on January 6th, they geo-tracked everybody's cell phone that was in the area. And they ended up finding people at their house and coming to their house and saying, you were there on January 6th and you went into the building. How would they know that? Because they geo-tracked phones. They geo-tracked everybody's phone that was at this building and the killer, I would imagine. And they can see the patterns of everybody at the event, including the person who was responsible for or allegedly killed Charlie Kirk. And they're going to examine, well, where did you go? Where did your phone ping at? Where's your last travel? How many times did you visit the campus? Did you visit the campus before? When you did visit the campus, what is the geotrack location saying about where you're doing on the campus? Like if this guy did surveillance at the campus before this event and he had his phone on him, they will be able to see where he walked from his car, where he walked, how long he was walking, where he walked to, in, out, up, down. They have all this stuff. Geotrack. Like,
yeah, it's a lot, and it's insane how little people are talking about Tyler Robinson with all of this proof. It's insane. Before we get to, because I know I don't want to go over to time too long, I want to get to some Q&A real quick, but I just have one question that I hear a lot. I'm a military veteran. I've shot a Mauser, know what a 30-06 is, but can you speak to, on ballistics, about the 30-06, everyone's confusion about, like, you know, they say, hey, it hit his spine, but it's a 30-06. What was he, 150 yards, give or take, away? What's the deal there?
I'm not necessarily a firearms expert. I've never shot a 30-06. You know, I've shot a 308. I've shot 5.56, 7.62, 9 mil and lower. You know, I've shot 12 gauge slug, all that. I've shot all those. I've never shot a 30-06, and definitely not out of a rifle like that. You know, so, but I've seen videos online, and I've seen people test fire 30-06 and all of the above. 30-06 is a massive round. Now, nobody knows. You know, the FBI definitely knows. But as far as civilians, no one really can. You would have to kind of recreate the situation for somebody to determine what should or shouldn't have happened, right? If somebody shot an elk or shot, you know, one of those animals that you're hunting with a 30-06, and you go, man, it went through and through, and all of the situation. You got to compare the distance that you shot it from, the type of ammo you use. Are you loading your own ammo, or is it stock ammo? Like it's a lot of contributing factors. So what a person would have to do to be able to unequivocally deny that it was a 30-06 or not is that they would have to recreate that scenario. They would have to be at the same vertical angle. They would have to be using the same rounds, same cold barrel, the same barrel. They would have to shoot Charlie at the same trajectory, and the bullet would have to hit the same way that it hit the night up for them to say, no, this did not happen, or no, or this did happen. A 30-06 round hitting a person was the biggest question mark that I had in this entire case. And I believe that the FBI will get this right. And I believe that the FBI knows a lot more than we know. And I'm not convinced that a person can say that a 30-06 wouldn't react the way it did in Charlie's body. We don't know. We really don't know. We've never seen a person shot at that foot. I mean, you know, that distance. And you know, a 30-06. I would ask people to do the research on this. I haven't done it yet, but there is a maximum velocity distance of a 9 mil, 223, 5.56, you name it. There's a max velocity, which means that when the bullet leaves the barrel, it's obviously not at its max velocity. It gets up to max velocity, then it begins to decrease in velocity. Therefore, if you shoot a gun off, eventually it's going to hit the ground if the further you go out. These heavy rounds like 308 and 30-06, 50 cal, these rounds can travel very far. I think a 50 cal could probably travel over a mile. You know, a 30-06, I mean, I could be wrong about that. A 30-06 can travel probably 600 yards, easy. So yes, a person would have to do some math there. I haven't done the math yet, but I wonder what distance does a 30-06 meet its max velocity? And if the max velocity of a 30-06 is at 400 feet, or 400 yards, I'm sorry, or 600 yards, then that would articulate that if Charlie is shot at 150 yards or so, 100 to 150 yards, that means that the bullet didn't even get to its max velocity. And people that are comparing that to shooting a elk or some, I don't know what they shoot with it. I don't go hunting. Then you have to compare the max velocity. Like if it hit Charlie at its max velocity, then it probably would have ripped through him and took his whole head off. But if it had not reached max velocity at that angle, that could explain why it may have tumbled the way it did, or it may have fragmented the way it did and didn't go through his body. So, you know, that's one thing that I think people should consider. I might look it up while we're here.
I also think that this a 30-aught has not been tested against a spine and reacting with the impact of a spine that has a lot of built up calcium. I think that also has not been tested. But ballistics, I mean, this is what we have ballistic analysts for. This is why we have all of that forensic science invested in solving homicides.
There was some
Also,
studies with the 30
none of these
the
people
claim-
have ever done. None of these people have never worked at a crime lab,
Right.
and they have no idea what they're talking about. Like you can say, I shot an elk with a 30-06. Yeah, but you know, there's freaky stuff that happen all the time, depending on if it's a hollow tip or.
That's right.
You know,
there was a study that I did read that said that it actually is about a 10 to 20% chance, not likely, but possible that actually the spine's C-spinal area at the top can stop a 30-06, and bullets, they do weird things once it enters the body. I mean, it's just a fact of the matter.
We just never know. We never know what obstruction he had. We don't really know. The FBI knows, but like I said, I mean, did he load his own ammo? You know, because if he loaded his own ammo, you know, he obviously at some point, if you underload the ammo, it won't fire.
Right.
But it could be that he didn't load the ammo enough, or he had bad ammo. I mean, we don't know how long this ammo been sitting around.
That's
so
right.
some of these could be factors. I'm not saying they are, but they could be, and this is what they have to investigate.
So someone made a good point. Martin Luther King was also struck with a 30-06, and the projectile stayed within his body.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so I just looked it up and I fact checked it. They said he was struck with a 30-06 pew pew fired from a Remington model 7600 long pew pew. TikTok friendly language.
That up because why nobody talking about that? If you got shot with a 30-06 and it didn't go through and through, why were you surprised that Charlie getting shot with a 30-06 didn't go through and through?
Yeah, so that was something I just fact checked. It was confirmed by ABC, History.com, Seattle Times that he was also struck with a 30-aught and it didn't go through and through.
That's a good point. That's awesome, Millie.
I never heard of that.
You're
I
welcome.
never heard of that either. Yeah.
That's significant.
Yes, very significant to the narrative.
It is. To give Brandon his time back, I do have just a couple questions from the audience. Millie, thank you so much. You're absolutely amazing. If you guys don't follow Millie, she runs very, very big MAGA lives here on TikTok. She's absolutely incredible. You guys should give her a follow. Brandon, so before you leave too much while you're researching, this question comes from a dear friend of mine. His name is Rabbi Litvin. If you ever, because obviously you're Talmud Tatum now, so if you ever have questions on the Talmud, Rabbi Litvin's got you. He's one of the most intelligent guys that I know, but it's incredible. His question for you is: when did you first recognize the need to stand up for Jewish people in Israel?
Yeah, that's a great question because it's in two phases. My support came before me feeling the need to stand up, right? I mean, I didn't really think it was, I didn't think anti-Semitism was really that bad in America at first. I thought it was a couple of nut jobs that also hate everything. I thought a few of them in the corner, spitting on each other at a protest wasn't significant, and so when I went to Israel, I fell in love with Israel. I fell in love with the Israeli people, and I became more like, I want to get to know Jewish faith and Jewish people more often. I want to go to Israel more. I really loved my experience there. And it opened my eyes to the relationship between America and Israel. And so I loved the Israeli people and I was a big fan of Israel. And then it wasn't until recently, like when you see that video I did on Instagram that was viral, I was sitting in my car and I was just ranting about these ignorant people. That's when I really was like, I can't no longer like sit back. Like I got to go hard now. Because when October the 7th happened, I thought it was cut and dry. I said, yeah, they need to turn that place into a parking lot. And when I clarified that in my speech, but clearly people don't show it. It's not that I wanted innocent people to die. That wasn't my goal. The thing was that I want people to realize they can never do this again. So whatever it takes for people to realize you would never do this again, that's the extent in which I think that Israel should have responded. And I thought that everybody had common sense like me. And so we all get it. Right? A terrorist organization does this, and then there's retaliation, and there's the hostages that are still there, and they got to go get their hostages, and like it's over. Like, well, what are we talking about? And then it wasn't until I started seeing those fake videos online. I saw a little video of a building blowing up, and I'm like, and Instagram will keep feeding it to you. I saw a video, like 15 minutes of watching videos, and they're all fake. I'm like, well, wait a minute, why is the building blowing up, and the camera's perfectly positioned?
Yeah, that's exactly
at that building. dude, I'm telling you, I look at like 15 videos and I'm like, wait a minute.
You have a different mind, especially like just being an officer. You are able to look at those videos, and of course, we're all human beings. We have the emotional response, but there's the difference between people that react to solely those emotions and someone like you who can say, all right, let me put my emotions aside real quick. Why is it that this camera's on a tripod in the middle of the street pointed at this building? I saw this... I saw your video and with Myron Gaines, you guys go and debating back and forth. Man, the amount of lies he spewed. I literally couldn't make it past 30 minutes before I had to make like 5 different videos talking about the whole 83% of civilians are killed. You know that study came from, if you just actually read the study and not just the headline, you know how they got to the 83% are civilians? What they did was they took 8,900 from a database that was totally secret. They don't want to release it, but let's just pretend he's telling the truth. They take just the named fighters. Everyone who's unnamed that was a terrorist automatically counted as a civilian. Anyone who's a political Hamas leader automatically counted as a civilian. Anyone who was not part of, or who was part of Hamas and PIJ was counted. Everyone else, PRC, Army of Islam, PFOP, DFOP, all the other terrorist organizations in Gaza, they counted them all as civilians, and that's how they got to the 83%. But these pro-Pallies will trick you because they'll see it like, look, Tatum, it says right here, 83%, and it's like, and then you have to take the time, because they won't, to actually just go read the headline, and this is what they do.
You can just see where the source comes from. I think that's very clear. You're like, oh, Hamas told you that? Okay, we need verification. I want to make a correction. I want to make a correction about the 30-06 round, because I know people are going to eat me alive. When I looked it up, it says the maximum velocity occurs at the muzzle. So as soon as it leaves the muzzle, the max velocity is there, and then it begins to decrease over time. So how much it travel per feet is dependent on the barrel length. So it really just depends on which barrel that you're shooting it out of, whether it's a 26-inch barrel, which would be 29 feet per second, or a 20-inch barrel, which is 2,700 feet per second. Which is a kind of a big different speed, but it really depends on the barrel size. So I want to make the correction to say that it's not building momentum. According to the research, is that as soon as it exits the barrel, it builds all the momentum it needs coming out of the barrel, and then obviously there's air drag that eventually is losing velocity the longer it goes. But
yeah, that's right. It's
still inconsequential to the human eye. I mean, once you shoot that thing, it's gone. You know what I mean? Within seconds.
That's good.
Yeah, it's traveling at 2,800 feet per second. That's less than a second, and it's on you. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, for sure. Okay, this one just real quick comes from my best friend. He goes by Hebrew Hammer. He doesn't like his name out there, so we'll call him Hebrew Hammer. He said he wants to know a little bit more about just your trip to Israel, specifically as a black man and as a Christian. And did you experience any bigotry? Now, I've seen a lot of your interviews. I know people love to have taken that line out of context where you told Prime Minister Netanyahu about how someone did spit, but there were so many people that came up and said, like, this does not represent us. And of course, people focused on that one little sentence you said and ignored the context of how people said this doesn't represent us.
And they played the context. Yeah. I was worried that people were going to just play the spit part and they were going to move on. I'm like, dang, dude, I'm going to have to explain this. I had to play. No, they put the whole context in there. They put me say the kid spit at the pastor's foot, and then the guy comes up and rebukes the kid. How in the do you? God, these people are annoying to me. So anyway, when I was there, it was great, man. It was lovely. I had no problems nowhere. Dude, the Palestinians in the well, at least the Palestinians that I saw when we were in Jerusalem, them and the Jews didn't have no problems. They were separate, you know what I mean? It was separate little shoppings or whatever, but nobody had a problem. The Arabs and the Jews never had a problem anywhere. Every hotel we were at, it was Arabs and Jews working there. And then it was Shabbat, the Arabs would work. And then when it was the Arab holiday, the Jews would work. And so nobody had a problem, nobody cared. That's why I was shocked at October the 7th, because I just didn't see the conflict being like that. So, it reaching that boiling point. Like, everybody seemed to get along. Had no issues with me being black, for sure. Nobody said anything, no issues. And the funny thing is, the kid, he didn't spit on me. He spit on the white guy. You know what I'm saying? And the funny thing, and I was in front of the pastor. Let me tell you this, the funny thing is, because people may think that this was like a 4 or 5-year-old. This was a little bitty kid. I mean, I don't think he could talk. He was scooting on a little scooter thing, like a little pony or something. He was scooting down the thing. His mama didn't say nothing to us. He gets in the middle of the thing, and I'm walking in front of Pastor Allen Jackson, and he's like, he gets to the middle, he go, "Ugh," he's like spit on the ground, and I laughed, dude, because I don't even know how to process this. I'm like, is this kid spitting at us? Like, what is happening here? This is a little bitty kid. It's a little kid, dude. Like, and I'm like, wait a minute, I think he spit. I have no contextual reality of spitting or nothing. I'm like, that's crazy. This little kid is like spitting at us. And think about it. I don't know why. It's not like it's not like we walking through there with clergy collars on. Dude, I'm in linen. Pastor got jeans and a t-shirt on. Like none of us, we ain't like we walk with Bibles in our hands. So
right.
The kid could have just been spitting because we weren't Jews. I mean, I don't know what the kid was doing. So he does his little spit, and we try to let them come through first because it was a woman and a child. So I kind of like stepped back, and I stepped out to the side, and he come through scooting on his little thing. His mom is not saying nothing. She act like she don't even see us. Like I think she's embarrassed. And when he got next to Pastor Jackson, he went, and he spit like at his shoes. And in my mind, I'm like, I oughta whoop this kid. Did he just spit on it? I oughta take him and whoop. And then I was like, I'm in somebody else's country, man. I don't know what kind of laws, I hit somebody's kid or yell at somebody's kid. I can go to jail or something. But I was thinking to myself, like, I oughta whoop this kid butt. And like, soon as the kid does this, coming through the thing is an adult, another adult, literally Orthodox rabbi. Look, he had the swirls and he had the hat. So he coming through and he's like, that's wrong. That doesn't represent us. We love you guys. You're always welcome here. That is wrong. And the little kid and the mom will just walk off and of course she act like she was trying to like get out of there. But I mean, as soon as the kid did it, the very next person is like, that's wrong. And Pastor had been there 50, 60 times, he told me, over the years. And he's never had anybody even do what that kid has done. So I don't know, bro. It's kind of weird, man. I was there. I felt good. I saw the Christians there. We did TBN Network has probably the biggest podcast studio in Jerusalem. We did a podcast there. I mean, it was great. Like I told you at the beginning, I got Jesus is Lord tattooed in Hebrew on my forearm.
Yeah,
in
Jerusalem. Love Jerusalem.
And so it's not as crazy as people think, and that's why I don't like people that like they never been there and they don't know what they're talking about, dude.
Yeah, I'm with you.
It's a genocide. You like.
I'm with you. You ever want to debunk the apartheid, you just go there. I've been there so many times, or specifically Jerusalem. I've been to Israel twice, but like I go to Jerusalem a lot. You ever want to debunk it? All right, I promise you last question because this one's from my fiance who will be my wife tomorrow. So naturally I got to ask this. This is Danielle. Danielle asked you for marriage advice because she respects you a lot. She wants to know marriage advice. And I think, I like that question. I'll hear it too.
Yeah, that's probably what we really should be talking about now.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of different advice that I would give. One thing that I would say is that marriage is forever, and going into marriage, married couples have to understand that's forever. There's no exit valve. There's no I'm gonna get out of this. It's forever, and therefore forever means that you guys are not gonna always get along. But as a man and as a wife, your whole goal should be, how can I better serve the other person? That helps you get past the arguments. That helps you get past the frustration because it will come, especially when you have kids and all that stuff. But every day I wake up, I say, I'm not asking for my wife to do for me. I'm not counting up she didn't do this or she did this and did that. I'm saying, how can I serve my wife every single day? How can I be the best husband I can to my wife every day? And as a man, when you do that for your wife, the love that she feels from what you're doing makes her treat you the way you want to be treated.
That's right.
A lot of men think that, well, I want her to do this, and I want her to act like this, and I want her to do this, and she's not doing that. What is wrong with her? It's like, no, bro, what's wrong with you? If you're loving your wife and you're treating her with respect and you're protecting her, you're doing all the things you're supposed to be doing, and every day of your life, you serve your wife, she gonna do everything that you want her to do. Man, I'm sure your wife would agree with me. She would do everything you want her to do if you were doing your job and not counting up who's right and who's wrong.
So many men, they want to be treated like kings, but they will not even think to treat their women like queens, and it's insane to me. I just
insane, bro.
talking with you personally. First, I thank you so much again coming to this. I really respect you, and you're someone that I've been watching for like a long time, and so it's crazy how you say stuff. I'm like, man, I think exactly like that, which I guess that makes sense. That's why I like watching you so much. So, thank you so much for coming here, and thank you for going over time a little bit. And honestly, thank you for just being like having integrity. Integrity is like the word that I think a lot of people don't have today, and you clearly have that. You will say stuff, and I'm sure in the future you may say something that I don't particularly agree with, but it doesn't matter because I have that like deep respect because I know it's still authentically him. It's not like he's just saying something someone's forcing him to. It's authentically him. It's not about the views, and I think that's what's made you grown so much, and I imagine that's going to continue. And I hope to see you at the Turning Point. You're going to be at AmFest, I assume.
Yeah,
Are you speaking at that?
Yep.
I need to get tickets for that. I need to talk to somebody. I got tickets.
It's almost sold out.
No, they invited me to go, and they gave me tickets at the one in December, but now somebody switched out, and now they're like, oh, we have to wait for a waiting list. I don't know. I have to figure it out. Regardless, I'll be there. I'll be there.
Yeah.
Hey, I would like to thank you so much. It was a pleasure meeting you, a pleasure talking to you, and I wanted to thank you so much for your time today. Thank you for letting me ask questions.
Yeah, and thank you guys for having me. I really appreciate it. God bless you guys. Godspeed, and keep up the good fight because we're in this thing together.
I'm with you, man. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Officer Tatum, Brandon. God bless. Thank you.